What's up, everybody? CP and SJ with you again for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the wild world of sports, mostly college football, have some beverages, and hopefully have some fun along with you as well. SJ, not the weekend we wanted in the college football world, whether it be for our picks, whether it be for the results for our teams, or whether it be results for games that we kind of had an eye on. It was just kind of a crappy weekend all around, really, and I guess you have some of those once in a while.
Yeah, you mentioned those drinks are going to be carry on here through the rest of the weekend with that. Is not great, but we have those weeks, and it was more so of the probably the rooting interest that let us down. The picks, yeah, here whatever it is, what it is, but that's probably more. At least from my perspective, that was more of the downside. We didn't go defeated, so that's always good on the pick. So as long as we don't do that, it's okay. We get a few here or there, then we're doing all right. But yeah, we're weekend to forget. We'll just label it as that.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we've said many a times, if we were having a 70 to 80% batting average when it comes to these picks, and well, we wouldn't be talking to you guys very long probably because we figured out the game and figured out how to make some money. But that's part of it. It's all part of it. It's having some fun, and the unpredictability, as we've talked about many times, is what makes college football great. But sometimes it's not fun to endure when that happens, especially when it comes to rooting for your teams. But we'll talk about that. We'll, of course, recap all of our picks here for you as well. We will dive into looking at next week also, kind of peeking ahead to what's coming up on our next slate. And we've got a couple of topics to throw in kind of related to the college football stuff as well. As we get rolling, we always like to, of course, lube ourselves up with some sort of beverage. And as you mentioned, SJ, it's very necessary here this weekend, trying to endure what we had to watch. But I'm going with one here because, you know, I guess as they say, you just don't give up. You don't throw in the towel. So I'm going with the Forever True Blonde Ale, the official Iowa State beer from Back Pocket Brewing Company. I saw it on the shelf and I thought, I have something else related to say about this stuff too, or this kind of topic in general, but also kind of proving the point. Hey, you have bad weeks. You don't just give up and say your team's pissed and then walk away and forget about it. Everybody has a bad day. I'm going to chalk it up to that and keep rolling with them. So that's what I'm drinking. Pretty good blonde ale. It's nothing spectacular, but we'll get you home on a tailgate day. What are you pouring over there?
Yeah, well, you were dunkling it up last week, so you got me in the mood for that. So I was like, once you said that, I was like, yeah, you need to get me a little bit of that action for here soon. And I ended up doing it later that week. So I managed to save a couple. It's always tricky when it's a beer you like to,
Yeah.
hoard them away. I just put them in a fridge I don't usually use, or stick them in the back bin somewhere, so I don't see them until like, oh yeah, I got those in the basement or in the garage or whatever. But I went with the KC beer. That's one of my favorite companies. The BIER place. I probably, my German's not so fresh, so pardon that pronunciation. But that I like. I mentioned how I like those styles of beers, like the Hefeweizen, the Dunkel. If even basically whatever, man, any of those. I think they did a Maibach one time
Oh
that
yeah.
was real good. So that's. I'm hard to say clearly, but for me, this is probably my favorite beer maker here in town. Definitely, they do a lot of good things. I know it's very. I think that's what makes it good for me. It's very like kind of niche, if you want to call it that, or they just kind of focus on that style. They don't do a lot of even like a cerveza. They don't do like a lot. They don't do sours. They don't really branch out. They kind of just stick with that that German style. So they've really perfected it. And I know you've had a few before. Just can't really go wrong with anything they make. And they start putting in cans these days, so more especially when on those summer pool days, or you're hitting a park or a beach, that kind of comes in handy as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the good old Dunkels are very good this time of year. That's for sure. I have to get my hands on that one sometime. We of course will recap our picks here, and not nothing to write home about, but we got a few in here, so we're just gonna go through the list. The and I guess this is kind of where I'm coming from too with the theme of the weekend. It's like a lot of these teams are just it's like total disappointment. Like what are you doing? Like
And it's hard to feel bad about it when it's like it was not we weren't the only ones doing it, and it was like very unforeseen, circumstances that led to this. So it's like, I mean, you're mad that you lost the pick, but it's like, what are you gonna do when when an undefeated team or a team on a 7 game win streak goes and loses to a 500 team?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not big. Okay, move on to the next one.
Exactly. And the first one I'm going to talk about here, not only was it disappointing because it felt like one of those just kind of slam dunks of the year, but also the way the game played out even made you pissed off at the end of the day. Duke getting 20 points against Miami. They
They're
lead the
the
game
whole
at halftime. They lead the game at halftime and they still don't cover. How the hell?
Well, that was one where I was like, "Damn, I should have." I seriously thought about just not one of our main picks here, but just for the hell of it, we might as well make. We always make some extra things or just messing around, looking at the lines, and I was like, "Man, maybe I should take a just running a money line there," And then at halftime, I was like, "Gosh, I should have played that," And then you look back, like, what happened? Like literally, like it just fell apart on him. And it's like, I mean, it's not like it's the first time that it's happened to a team, but still, it's like it's still hard to fathom. It's like they were right there, and then all of a sudden it was just like, man, not even a game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're getting pretty much 3 touchdowns, and you're leading the game, and you can't hang on to that. Obviously, they don't care about the covering part, but they, still, even just to not be competitive in the game, like
Yeah.
the hell.
I
53
mean, yeah, you
31
weren't
the
asked
final.
them to win. I mean, I said the money line, but you were just stay within 3 touchdowns, please. Like, come
Yeah,
on,
what
don't
the
get
hell?
embarrassed. That's
Yeah,
all.
unreal. I mean, obviously, we know Miami's got that like my explosive potential on offense if they do get going, and they did at the end of the game. That's why they pulled away. But still, the way the season's played out, that was just kind of an unexplainable scenario there. One that was nice that you were able to get was good old and one of the feel good stories of the year. Really, Vanderbilt. They keep doing it. They not only cover, but they get the win, 17-7 against Auburn. They become bowl eligible as well. Just a hell of a season for them. They've been competing with the big dogs. Obviously, knocked one of the big dogs off. And they're having some fun. It just seems like a team that really is just kind of they go out there and they roll the dice and they don't really care who the other team is. They're just playing football.
Yeah, I mean, same with the last one. I said even on the little preview pick show we did that I was like, man, I you could take the money line on this one. I'd feel pretty confident about that. And I was like, I should have put my money where my mouth is, but hindsight's there. But I'm gonna have to keep on this train for a little bit, no pun intended there, and just keep rolling with Vandy because it doesn't matter who they play. And I know it looks like they're an underdog again next week against South Carolina, 3.5 as it sits now. So we'll probably that not to look too far ahead, but that may be one we peek at here later in the week.
I did see too, by the way, a little comment, and I don't know. I just happened to stumble across this. Um, One of the linebackers for Vanderbilt sent a tweet out, and he had a screenshot from one of the coaches from Auburn that sent him a message on Christmas morning that they weren't going to recruit another linebacker in this cycle. So he was like apologizing to him. Sorry, we're not going to bring it in, but have a Merry Christmas.
Well, at least he added that to it. Yeah. Well, and I think even the quarter, like I know a guy. I think it was just like normal trash talk, but got a little chippy on the field there after the game with the in the handshake lines and whatever. That's not that out of the ordinary. But and the quarterback as well for Vanderbilt, he was make had some kind of comments of just another team that didn't recruit me, and then I came and beat that type of thing. So I was like, hey
Mhm.
man, you get the spoils when you win, right?
Yeah.
So you can
Hmm.
say whatever you want. He's not lying in this case, and I mean that shows you just too what recruiting is. You can whatever you can evaluate and try to have your formulas and your heights, your weights, your speeds, and all that stuff. But it's still when it comes to, I mean, of course, there's the no brainers, but even then, it's who's to know that they can handle life as an adult and they don't just party their way out of the game or even worse, just get involved in something more serious. So it's still always a crapshoot, even when it comes to that recruiting. And it's not like they're the only team. I get what that message probably. He's probably waiting. I can't wait. So if I ever have the chance to use this is go. I'm freaking blasting this everywhere, and it helps too having the online effect of it being able just to get it out there that quick. Because
Hmm.
before it'd probably just be like talk amongst the team or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's a good cool story, and I mean they've had a rough go of it at that school, so it's nice to see. I mean, have a little success because it's not like they weren't working hard. They just
Yeah.
maybe didn't have the right coach in place, or didn't have the support behind them from the school. But I think that's probably changed now.
Yeah. I mean, America loves an underdog, so
Yeah.
that's what we're getting here this year with
To an
Vandy.
extent, once they start winning it, then it's like, all right, enough of you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, that's true. Um, Another one we did hit was the Oregon Michigan contest. Oregon 38-17. I had them laying the 14 and a half. It was hairy for a while. They did need to score late to make it happen, but they got it done. And then, of course, it got you over the points as well. We were looking just over 45, got to 53. So, yeah, we both needed kind of those late points to make it happen. But Oregon, I guess just again proving that they are a superior team to many that they face throughout the league.
Yeah, we should have just threw everything on that game. That was a little double banger there, so we
Hmm.
like that. Like to see that. It wasn't obviously the game wasn't in doubt for very at any point. I don't think even when it was kind of close, Oregon was just it was just a matter of time for they pulled away and they ended up doing that. Um, I know the lot was made about like being that big of an underdog at home, but I I thought I was actually kind of surprised. I figured it'd be more just for the fact how explosive Oregon's been compared to how Michigan struggled offensively. So that wasn't really that surprising. And we probably should have just we went pretty heavy, but maybe we should just went a little heavier on that and said screw the rest of the games. But like as we said, how would you know that some of these things were going to play out the way they did, considering how uh, how consensus of favorites a lot of these picks we made were?
Yeah. Next one on the list, and I hate to bring up bad memories for you, SJ, but I did take
Yeah.
Nebraska to lay a touchdown against UCLA, and they end up losing the game. 27-20 is the final. They did make a run at the end, but was pretty rough there for a good chunk of it. And again, one of those unexplainable things. Like you go out. And well, I guess it's kind of been every other week for this team, right? I mean, you have rough outing against Indiana, you show up and almost win at the Horseshoe, really probably should have, and then you just come out at home and kind of lay an egg against UCLA.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you weren't thinking they were gonna like 52-7 or nothing like
Yeah,
that. You just. I mean, you could see like a 17-7 win or to that effect, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe even like a little bit higher scoring, but a 10 to 14 point victory isn't that much to ask. Just I mean, that you can't say anything else besides didn't show up to play is the only way to frame it from what it looks like watching. I mean, they go down the field, score on the first drive. I mean, they only get 2 yards. I mean, I know they didn't have a lot of possessions because UCLA did have a pretty good scheme there early on to keep the ball away. And I think they had 2 offensive yards in the first half. Nebraska because they only ran 3 plays.
wow.
So I mean, when you don't got the ball, it's hard to score. And then when you're struggling offensively, you add that to it. Yeah, just I mean, just a shit effort. You can't really say it any other way. And I don't know what you go. I mean, doesn't mean that. I mean, they have a bye coming up, but the next game doesn't mean that it's going to carry over. It probably end up got USC coming up. They might win by 10 points. Who knows? I'm going to be the underdog, so that who knows what's going to happen. But it's just an up and down team, and it's hard to know what to expect. Which makes it even that much more difficult because it's you want to see consistency. I think with any team that you follow in any sport, that's what you're looking for. Is maybe you lose. You want to obviously win more than you lose, but you can kind of I don't want to say accept it, but you can understand it if you have your best or close to your best effort, and the other team is just better than you on that day. Then you say, well, here's why this, that, and the other. But to when the effort is effort or appearance of a lack of effort is what you really kind of what shows from a game, then it's hard to be like and so you're kind of go the other way of like, man, what the how what am I supporting here? Like what's to get behind? Like how do I have any positivity going forward when if this is what you're going to get on a weekly basis?
Yeah, yeah, that's hard. And it's hard, when especially when you get that glimpse, when you see that potential and that you see your team play well in a game, and it's like then they just really let you down. That's even worse sometimes because if I guess if it was just consistently bad, then you know what you're coming into with no expectations. Like that's different. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just said, do not ask. I mean, in this case, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I can speak for everybody, but with with a team that you just want to see them, have a team that's competitive minimum. That's like your baseline.
Hmm.
So if you can do that, then you can kind of roll the dice and go from there. But with the up and down is just not going to cut it, especially when you still have a roster full of players who have enough experience where what it's going to be week to week. Like I know a lot of times, like when you're in, especially with the Big Ten and the SEC, in Big 12 probably too a little bit to some extent, but it's kind of just the over and over, like, oh, it's tough every week. Well, that, like, that just it's like an easy storyline, easy
Hmm.
narrative. Like these schedules, like you knew that before that, and adding these schools, all you cared about was the dollar signs. But when you look at the schedule, I mean, that just went that much more difficult to
Hmm.
win games. So it's not a surprise. Sometimes I think it's used like as an excuse or like a bailout, like, oh, well, we have a tough schedule. You know what the schedule is going in, like either you play it or you don't. Like
Hmm.
that's your
Yeah.
your two options. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not tough, but
Yeah.
to me it can't be used as an excuse for any team in the country that plays the sport.
Well, and the one thing I always love too is like how that becomes a talking point like later in the season when we already have, you didn't know that coming into the year that this team and this team were going to be the real tough ones. Like, yeah, things change. It gets tougher when other teams play well and you didn't expect it. It happens. Big deal.
Yeah, you go down. I mean, anybody's schedule, and you look, and of course, everybody before the year is like, "Oh, we can win this, can win that, can win this," and it's the exact almost opposite. Oftentimes, it's just flipped because nobody knows anything until you get a few weeks in, and even then, still got what 4 games, 3 or 4 games left for a lot of teams, and that it could all be. We could talk about a whole different team come 2 or 3 weeks from now who we think's gonna take it all. So,
Hmm.
uh, just it changes by the day, it seems. But I mean, that's good. We like that.
Yeah. Another team that absolutely disappointed me and just I don't know where this came from either because I've seen the other team that they played play before and they're not that great. But Navy, I mean, you go
Uh,
you go from top of the world, everybody's talking about you because you're undefeated, you're playing great, they love your style. You go in and lay a egg against Notre Dame. People give you a pass for that. That's fine. It's a known team. Maybe you got caught up in that. They obviously have talented players because they always do. So yeah, you okay, flush it on to the next one. You're playing Rice, who probably is one of the worst teams in the country. Like, let's just be honest. And you lose the game. You're favored by 11 and you lose by 14, 24-10. Like, I didn't think this was a big ask. I just thought Navy's going to go out, get back to what they do well, run the football, take better care of it because they obviously had those issues the week before. And you expect a program like that to be dialed in and focused because that's what they're all about. They live on discipline. So just a weird result. I did not understand where that one was coming from, and I guess I don't feel so bad about making the pick because I still would have thought that anyways, but it just looks terrible now.
yeah, I mean, of course, we want them to cover, but if they don't, you think, well, maybe they play bad and win by 7 or 10, but then they don't even they don't even win the game, and maybe it's obviously they weren't able to flush whatever happened.
Yeah.
That's only maybe the only conclusion I can come to because as far as like talent wise or even just how good they've been this season or how good their team has looked, there's no way that Rice should even been competitive with them. I mean, they should have won by 20 points probably, just based upon how each team is kind of
Mm-hmm.
this season against other opponents. Well, if you compare, just looking at just the eyeball test, I guess you want to call it that. So yeah, what are you gonna do? It's just a bad loss, and I mean, for their case, hopefully they rebound, but. I don't know. It seems like one of those things that could maybe snowball if you don't
Yeah.
get ahead of it here, maybe this week or the next week. I don't know if they got a buy or anything coming up or what their schedule looks like going forward. But I mean, you got that army over there. They're still rocking and rolling. So you better figure something out, or you're gonna be have be an extra cold day in December there. I don't know why. It always seems like that. Where they play it at, where the Ravens Stadium usually don't they anymore,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
Baltimore. But it just seems like it's cold as shit every year they do that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't think of Baltimore as like a cold city like compared to like a lot of other places. Like I know they get a winner at least, but it's not like it's nothing like
Yeah.
a
We
freaking Minneapolis
yeah
or
we
it's
ain't
not like
playing at
Chicago.
Lambeau here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. Like not a Detroit or anything. So but it just seems like that day maybe it's just I don't know, all that energy just affects the atmosphere, maybe all that armed service energy in
Yeah.
the area.
Yeah, maybe yeah, they got to get I mean, yeah, they got to get their shit together cuz otherwise Army's going to come in and just stomp the shit out of them at the end of the season. Yeah, not good on that one. Another disappointment, and I do feel a little bit uh misled, or I guess I bought in too easily to this one because you could have analyzed this game and saw that this has the real potential to be a pretty good trap game type of scenario, and it played out that way. Texas A&M did not really show up. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's tough to go on the road anywhere in the SEC and play at night. South Carolina always has a great atmosphere, and honestly, they've been an okay team this year too. I think I discredited them a little bit more than I probably should have because their losses really aren't ones that are awful if you look at it, from the whole season perspective. But they looked good, and A&M just absolutely got hit on the chin. 44-20 is the final, South Carolina, and they rolled it up at the end, too. They made sure that they were putting an exclamation point on that bad boy. The fans decided they needed to storm the field. I don't know that that was really necessary, but whatever. Have your fun. But yeah, they just beat the crap out of them, really.
The best part was whatever, shrubbery or whatever kind of landscaping they have there took out quite a few of those fans. Though that was a hell of an image. Didn't think you'd see that. To me, anytime it's like a 20 point or a double digit loss is either to me it's something was up with, like, either you didn't come to play or you got out coached or out schemed or however you want to term that, or the other team had to have like kind of played lights out. And to me, I don't know that they played like lights out because A&M had leads in that game on a couple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's probably more of the coaching aspect to it. And when you talked about like the trap game, this gets a little tricky when we're doing this kind of when we're making the picks and kind of trying to I guess prognosticate, to use a big word here, because I mean every game's a trap game when we go back to the schedule talk anymore.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know which one's going to be which? So that's the trick of it, and that's what we're kind of trying to the formula we're trying to hit on there. So that's the curveball to us
Yeah.
is with these bigger conferences and these kind of schedules that are you see the big names playing each other week in and week out. It's awesome to watch and it's very enjoyable, but it does also just it makes it a little tricky when it's if you don't show up, likely you're going to take a whooping, and that's what happened in this case. And a lot of the other ones that we've talked about, and we have a couple more to mention. But if you don't show up, it can get ugly quickly. Just you're not playing, whatever you want, Eastern, Western Tech U, whatever. Like when you're not playing Blue Mountain State anymore. Like you got, it's real teams every week. So I mean, and that's what you want, though. I mean, you want to figure out who's good or who's worthy of playing in this playoff. You have to play real teams.
Yeah. Yeah, this ain't the mud dogs you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Uh, and man, I guess my thinking too going into that, it was like A&M was so impressive the week before. I mean that win against LSU, they just blew their doors off, and you're only laying 3. I'm thinking, okay, I mean, yeah, they can. I thought maybe a push at the worst. Yeah, I thought they'd still win the game. But man, yeah, that's rough, and especially when you're in that spot, like you said, they were suddenly the ones, like they've been, drastically desired for the last decade. Like we want to be talked about as the SEC top dogs. Here's your chance to, be the leader, be in that playoff conversation, and you go out and just, take a dump on it. So I mean, it's still a long ways to go, and it's not saying that they're totally out of it anymore, because I think this league is, and just like all of them, is still up for grabs and wild. But yeah, interesting. Just a really tough one to understand. At least it happening is the way it did. Is really rough. Another one that disappointed us. This again, I don't know. I thought this game would be close, but SMU absolutely piss pounded Pitt. I don't know. I mean, like I totally understood your thought process because I had it on my maybe list too. They're getting some points, and you think this is going to be a close game, and no, it was not. SMU had the lead right away and never looked back.
Yeah, this was one of those that was kind of not worth watching by the time you got to halftime. And
Mm-hmm.
didn't even bother peeking there. I just like I'll just check the final later because it was never a game. And the weird thing is that SMU's when they've had a big game this year hasn't looked all that great. I mean they've won obviously most of them look at their record, but they haven't like just kind of dusted anybody off
Yeah.
until this week. And you thought Pitt could at least be competitive. I didn't expect them to win, obviously, or I would have. I just took the points.
Mm-hmm.
So you thought maybe they could, even if they were behind a touchdown, 10 points, seven, maybe they get a late touchdown, late couple scores, and they stay within that 7.5 points. But yeah, that's one just like they weren't either they couldn't match up with them or they didn't know how to or they just had a terrible day. It's one of those who knows what. There's no way to find out the true answer to that one. But either way, it wasn't their day, and that's all you can chalk it up to is obviously SMU is a much better team.
Yeah. Yeah, impressive win for SMU certainly, and they are really in that driver's seat now. It looks like they're in the ACC for sure after the way the rest of the day played out. Another, I guess we'll go to my sorrows here. Iowa State loses at home to Texas Tech, 23-22, and insult to injury, you were looking for the overs in the game, SJ, and they did not get there either. And yeah, I mean, one of those games where you just, for Iowa State, didn't put your best foot forward, didn't play your best game. And of course, they've been, playing with fire a little bit here recently, obviously. A late drive to knock off UCF the last game. And now this one, they just didn't seem like they were totally in sync. There was a lot of unforced errors. I thought the penalties got a little out of control. I didn't necessarily agree that it should have been as many as there were called, but it did also kind of tell you a little bit about the sloppiness of the way that they played in the game. And give Tech credit. I mean, again, they came in with a game plan, executed it pretty darn well, and gave themselves a chance. And I really thought though when Iowa State scores that last touchdown to go up and get the lead that hey here we're gonna lock this thing up and actually get it because they made Tech go 3-and-out the drive before, so you felt like the defense was in a groove. And then Tech, made plays to get down the field and score there before time ran out. And it even came down to like a 4th and 7 at one point that they were able to convert to keep the drive alive. So I got to tip my cap to them for making those plays. But yeah, it's tough always, especially, of course, when your team is undefeated moving into a game like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I thought that when they got that down the sideline there, that touchdown pass, I was like, oh, they're gonna do it again. That's exactly because what was it, just over a minute left, wasn't there? There couldn't have been. There
Yeah,
was
there's
under
2 minutes
2 minutes.
left. Yeah.
It's okay. So and then I was kind of, and I get you were there, so you have a better idea of it. But the to me the track, I mean, weather wise is what I would lean on. But it looked like maybe it was like a little bit of a sloppy of a track just because of the heavy rains, are like a little soggy. So looking at the overs, I think that's maybe what slowed these
Yeah,
teams
it
down
could be.
because it was even though there wasn't the points, I think I'd still categorize it as like a back and forth game. There was kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
little tit for tat type of action with between the teams when they would actually score. Then someone seemed to come back and score it back, and I think Tech even scored on 2 consecutive drives, maybe not if I remember right. And then but then Iowa State was able to find a way back. But to me, what I stood out to me a couple of things, of course, was the late comeback by Tech where that was that sideline catch or not catch. There was a little juggle action there. I
Mm-hmm.
think they ended up giving it to him though, did they
Yeah, they
not?
did. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was I was like, oh crap, he didn't catch it. And then they said, oh, oh man, this replay not again. Like I mean, like I'm obviously it didn't matter to me because the overs are out of it, and I was like, oh, I was kind of hoping you guys would pull it out, so help at least one of us could be in a good mood. Um, but like it's just like, can you get it right? That's all. That's always just my thing. It's like just get it damn right. It's so annoying and frustrating. But and then to me, it felt like and I guess I haven't watched like every game, so you can help me out with this. But just it seemed like there was a lot of drops on Iowa State's in that were like kind of not easy catches, but catches their receivers and tight ends usually make. So I thought that played in a lot, considering slowing down their offense and just end up costing them in the long run, obviously, because they came up a few points short.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Especially the two star receivers, Higgins and Knoll, they both are guys that are really sure-handed. I mean, usually if it's in their area, they make a play on it. And there was a ridiculous stat at one point early in the season with Higgins that he hadn't dropped a single pass like up through I think like the first 4 games or something. It was just crazy, like it's unheard of. And he had a big one there late in the game too. Granted, it was a really I think a difficult situation because he had like a defender fly in front of the path of the ball, so it's one of those things where you kind of eyes get distracted, for a minute. But it hit him, it hit him in the hands, and he didn't come up with it. And yeah, there were a few of those moments where usually they make those plays, and in the same time too, there were some moments where Rocco Becht has been better than he was. He missed some throws or just kind of made a decision that you expected him to do the opposite. He just kind of had a not a great day. It wasn't a terrible day, but it wasn't a great day. And sometimes you need better than just average to make sure that you pull off a win when people are gunning for you. And it didn't happen for him. So I don't know. I'm hoping that I can take the perspective of another fan that was walking out of the game and was like, kind of maybe it's good. We get this out of the way. You have all this kind of pressure that's been built on you because you have been undefeated, and you get that blemish now, and now you can just refocus and go back to work and just try to ignore the noise a little bit more and just play football. So hopefully that is the case. So we'll see. I'm interested to see how they respond to it. You always, as a fan, want to see if they can bounce back from a loss, and hopefully they do that this week down in KC there at Arrowhead Stadium. So yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, on both our regards. So my team lost, didn't get to the overs. Not a great deal.
Well,
Uh,
that's a good rebound there. If in at least this year, if you needed one at all, like that's probably the team you like to see a schedule after a loss
mhm.
with the way they've been playing. So
Yeah, yeah. Between them and maybe Arizona and Okie State right now, I mean, those are the teams you like to see on your Big 12 schedule because it's
well, we
not been
thought
going well.
Rice too, but apparently not. Yeah,
Yeah, unreal.
bastards.
The other game that we had here on the slate that we were looking for didn't quite also come to fruition because this game was in question for a long time again. Florida gives Georgia a run. A couple of late scores for the Georgia Bulldogs, and they do get the win 34-20, but not enough to cover. They were looking to cover 16 and a half there and couldn't quite do it. And I don't know. I guess give the Gators some credit. They've played better and better. It seems like each and every week out there, and they were able to make this game close for an awful long time. And then it just didn't come up their way in the end. But they did give Georgia a scare.
Yeah, might have been given Georgia a little bit too much credit. I mean, they've obviously only lost the one game or whatever, but just did not look like what you think when you think of Georgia. Just wow, like kind of going through the motions, if that, not even. I mean, just and then that I guess maybe. I mean, I think I've probably said this on the show number of times, but once I knew they weren't covered, like I'm rooting against them. That's just me. Like I hope they just lose. Like if I'm gonna lose the bet, lose the damn game. So I became a Florida fan there about I don't know, like late in the fourth quarter there when they looked like they had a chance to maybe go in for the tying score, but I just. I guess they got away with it. Just one of those where they figured they could just show up and win, and they did, but barely. But yeah, this I mean, all you can say is just kind of annoying because you're like, oh, I'm not have to worry about this game. This is the game that you're picking, and you're like, okay, I'm not planning on watching this anyways because it's going to be such a bad game,
Mm-hmm.
and then it ends up being competitive, and that's when you don't want to be. And the thing about it was close, but it's not like it was at least from I was had multiple games going like usual, but from what I saw, the few plays I saw, it's not like it was like entertaining or like, oh my god, this is amazing, back and forth contests. And I know the score was probably similar, but it was nothing close to like the Iowa State Texas Tech game. Like this was just like ugly, like a dog shit game, and it just happened to be close. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was not worth watching at
Yeah.
all. Like and of course, since we didn't make the right pick, it definitely wasn't worth watching. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was that's kind of just that was kind of I guess just kind of wrapped up the weekend for us, and in general, it was just not a good Saturday.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Florida, their star quarterback DJ Lagway gets injured in the game too. So yeah, and it may continue to go south for them if that's a more serious thing. I haven't really looked at that or heard what's going on with him, but not a good deal for them for sure. A couple other games I did want to mention as far as the results that were intriguing. One game that we had touched on, and I'm not surprised again at the result. Ohio State able to beat Penn State 20-13. Just kind of rough start. They got down 10-0, and you thought, oh my, is this the game that Penn State finally puts the hammer down in a big one? But no, it quickly turned. Ohio State got the lead right back, and then controlled the rest of the way. You just felt like they were going to win, and good win for Ohio State. But again, as a Penn State fan, that's tough. You just keep getting in those moments, and you just never come up with the one that you want.
Yeah, at some point, just you gotta figure what else can you do because it's more than a trend here. It's almost like a guarantee anymore. When you had, like you said, you had a double digit lead and you just couldn't do anything else other than that. And we knew they needed to keep the score down, and they were able to do that. Just couldn't. I mean, I need to go do some more. I'm not a big analytics guy, but sometimes I do. Like some stats interest me. As far as like if it like directly affects the game. And I'm not talking about like when this guy wears black shoes, he run. Like
Yeah.
not that analytics bullshit, but like actual like goal line stands. Like in that case, because I mean I think that directly affects the game. Like how often when people use goal line stands are there or they winning the game, or is it if it's a first half goal line stand or late in the game? But either way, it just seems like anytime you do something like that the chance of you winning. I mean, obviously it goes up because you keep them out of the end zone, but it's just such a huge momentum type thing, and it almost seemed to me that's like kind of where it started to really turn towards Ohio State. Just that gave them like a really just that boost when they kind of were lacking for something there to get going, which sounds weird when you have all that talent, but I do still think they have issues at quarterback. But I mean, he's kind of just good enough to get by because of what they have around him for Ohio
Mm-hmm.
State. But I mean, anybody would take those problems. You got a one loss team, and you're kind of complaining about this or that. So it's not like they don't have a ton of problems. I'm sure Penn State fan would gladly switch places, after Saturday. So
Yeah.
I'm sure. I really don't know though because they're gonna want Franklin out, but
Mm-hmm.
well, when other than that, I mean, other than that, like they're getting like, I mean, whether they top 10 recruiting every year, like
Mm-hmm.
they win 10 games pretty consistently. Like I don't know, like and other than getting, I mean, the only thing that could to me would really like kind of push you over the top is somehow you get like that 5-star can't miss recruit is about the only thing that could really do anything different. If you start over with a new coaching staff, like who knows what their recruiting is going to be like. So I'm not like thinking Franklin's like a great coach, but unless you have somebody pretty established in mind, I don't really know where you go from there as far as like coaching goes. I mean, it'd be kind of hard to fire somebody with that much success, but I mean we've seen it before, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's impossible.
Yeah, that is one of those tough, weird spots because he has for all regards done pretty well. I mean they've been a good team. They're always in the conversation, but yeah, they just don't win that big game or whatever. But yeah, it's hard to say that. I don't know. I guess it depends on how highly you think of yourself from an administrative standpoint. If you think you should always be winning those games, I don't know, but it is a tough spot. I did see too. I don't know if you caught this. I just saw this earlier today. There was a little fan scuff up interaction with Franklin as he walked out, and the guy was yelling something at him, I actually respect him because he stopped and talked to the guy and just said, "What's your name?" He's like, if you're gonna come at me and have a conversation, what's your name? Be a big man about it. Tell me. And the kid just turned around and walked away. He wasn't gonna have that argument, but I did appreciate that. At least he was kind of honest. Like, hey, I'll accept it, but have an honest battle with me.
The thing is too, like I don't know, like I don't like because I understand like you're especially when how many of these big games they've lost. I mean, it's not even just Ohio State, even Michigan or even Wisconsin's got them a few years when those have been big games. So I understand the frustration, but it's like you got to have a little bit of like there's needs like a solution is more, than just someone wanting to be like, you suck, f you, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but like I'm sure you think I mean, I'm not like saying that they can't do better. The coaches, players, everybody can't do a better job, and maybe not shrink up in these big moments. But it's not like you still got they want to win too. Like it's not
Yeah,
like they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just go out there and whatever happens happens. Like it's cool. It's a, you don't get to like these levels without being competitive and like being pissed off. Now sometimes some of the, especially like, I don't know, it seems more to happen in NFL because I guess to me it seems you just see it more. But some of these players are awfully happy after losses, though. I will say that with these jersey exchanges and that thing. I was like, I know you got that much money, but to get to that point, like you have to be a really competitive person to be. I'd be like, dude, we can message later or talk later. Like, I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of glad handing after these big games, and it could be other leagues too. The NFL really stands out to me
Uh-huh.
where they really just kind of go over the top, like uh more than others. But yeah, just I mean, they want to win. It's like that's their whole job. I mean, they understand, especially I'm sure, we just talked to him. I'm sure he doesn't feel very, he's not gonna say it publicly, but I doubt he feels that secure in his job at the moment if you like really got the truth out of him. So, you don't want to lose that job. That's a hell of a high paying job, and also just the like the pride aspect of it, or just the embarrassment of being fired. I mean, that
Mhm.
can't feel good no matter how much your buyout is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
Another game that I thought was a very interesting result was Louisville 33-21 over Clemson. Just when you thought Clemson was
Yeah.
kind of back again, here comes Louisville to spoil the day. And yeah, and as I alluded to earlier, that really puts SMU in a great spot now, too, in that league, along with Miami. And yeah, just kind of a weird result there for the Tigers, I thought.
Yeah, that traditional ACC powerhouse SMU is doing, just lying in the weeds. But this is honestly what I thought Clemson was going to be most of the year. And then, of course, when I pick against them, they, pull some magic out of their ass. But now they can't. But it was, I mean, kind of just from it was just a total, like a complete win, if you want, how you want to call it. It just wasn't. Louisville seemed to control. All the big plays were kind of going to them. Didn't really. It didn't seem threatened to me, at least when once they got the lead. It was like, oh, they're in control here. And of course, maybe the probably biggest story that came out of it, since it wasn't that close, was more of these fans go ahead and doing the pump, pass, and kick, but just the pass of it, and just fucking whatever bottles and cans and uh, cups they got in their hands out on the field there. So guess it's just going to be a weekly thing here. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the thing with like all these even from college up to the pro even level, it's like you see all this security and everybody got their yellow jackets on or whatever color it may be for the stadium that you're at. More than half of those people are volunteers. They're
Yeah.
not actually like employed by, so it's like, what are they? I mean, you're gonna dive and tackle somebody when you're not making any money, or you're maybe the few bucks you're getting is like for a fundraising effort, so you're like help like trying to get the money for your kids sports team, or your a band trip or whatever you're doing. So why would you get in the middle of these freaking drunks trying to kill
Mhm.
each other? So that's part of the issue. And then it's just like, with that many people, even if you did have actual like hired security, what's a couple thousand going to do against 50, 60,000 people?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they decide they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Like, you're not stopping it. You've seen that in all kinds of other situations in the world.
Well, I mean,
Not
speaking
just
of security, did you check out those guard putting the beat down on those Florida and Georgia fans?
no, I didn't
There's
see that.
yeah, there no, yeah, you gotta check it out if you ain't seen it. I mean, they're freaking throwing haymakers. I was like, I understand that these fans might get a little like out of sorts, but I'm not sure that that's legal just to beat the piss
Just
out of somebody. This is just because you have the low security jacket on. But it is Florida, so who knows? They got some different laws down there, I
hey,
guess.
it's the SEC. It just means more. So you can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
you want.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. Obviously, that part of it, unfortunate to see that keep happening again somewhere else. And I don't know if we're gonna get control of this shit or not, but we'll figure
I don't.
something out eventually,
Well,
maybe.
Well, I don't know, is it a class or something? I don't remember the first person to say it, but kind of like you seem like, oh, they just being like a drama queen, being like, oh, this could become a you know now you're setting precedents, regular things. Like, well, whoever it was, it's they're on it now because it
There it
has
is.
become a regular thing. Whether they, I don't think whoever said that was like intended and like wanted to become that, but the you know kind of could see it coming. So I guess whoever it was, you were right, but I don't think they wanted to be right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Another game that was kind of unexplainable in my mind, and I don't know, maybe this team isn't as good as I thought they were, but Kansas State loses on the road at Houston, and I guess at the end of the day, because of my team's result, it actually ended up being a positive thing for Iowa State probably because they fell themselves down the ladder a little bit. But um, I mean, I realize Houston does have a dynamic quarterback. They've got a dynamic quarterback that can make plays, but all in all, they've just not been a very complete team. And K State just didn't really have their chances. I don't know. You felt like maybe this is going to change at some point during the game, but never came around. Never worked out. And yeah, tough loss for K State fans if you felt like you were in a driver's seat there for the Big 12 race.
Yeah, you lose to Kansas by like 20 points or whatever, 20 some points, right? And then you beat Kansas State. Explain that one. That's college football in a nutshell there for Houston. That's you know, that's what you thought they could maybe do, and they just haven't been consistent with it. But when you rely on one player, that's the case of it. But yeah, it's got like the up and down. We see it across all conferences. Just the you know, mention these games like one that I was kind of mad I didn't play, and I thought about it was that Kentucky they covered there,
Yeah,
lost by 10. And then I mentioned it. I thought Wisconsin had a good chance there against Iowa, and Iowa put the beat down on
yeah,
them there. So I mean, that's you got to give them credit when they do. But watch them go and lose to UCLA this week. That's how it is up and down. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not touching that game at all. I'm not messing with the Friday night game. So whatever. But I'm just like that's how crazy some of these games have been. And you know, Iowa's what like the third time they scored 40 points this year. I think maybe at least
hmm
three times. So they're put. I mean, I know they still get a special teams here and there, but they're actually it's not the you know open you know like air it out attack, but they're getting points
yeah,
more consistent than they ever have. So
yeah.
they figured something out.
And obviously they created a little bit of drama with the whole swapping of the quarterback scenario, and it sure looks like this Sullivan kid's, taking the reins of it. And I don't know how you take it away from him now at this
Yeah.
point. He's playing well. As long as your team keeps winning, you can't really make that type of reversal again. Just because you paid the kid money to come to town doesn't mean you have to play him. And I think Cade McNamara's run there is probably over.
Yeah, not unless there's an injury. I don't think there could be a switch out, and if there is, that would be a very bad mistake in my mind. Just you're playing that well. I mean, I know they've lost a couple games they didn't that they maybe feel like they shouldn't have, quote
Hmm.
unquote. But they've beat some decent teams this year, so I think you stick with what's working if you can. But
Yeah.
uh, we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, I think it's still very unpredictable there. Um, yeah, that was really kind of some of the big games that I wanted to point out and mention here from this past week. We'll obviously look at the slate ahead here in a moment as well. One thing I did want to bring up to in regards to the and I guess this kind of relates maybe to the unruly fan thing for sure. So a couple weeks ago, Iowa State fans got a letter from athletic director Jamie Pollard kind of talking about how there's been some incidents, in the stands, and like we need to kind of corral this shit in, and make it a better atmosphere for everybody to be able to be there and enjoy the games. And I don't disagree with that at all. Obviously, if there are problems, they need to be addressed. But a lot of it came down to the whole alcohol scenario situation, and I don't know. I just don't see sometimes like where the focus gets placed. Sometimes it ends up being in the wrong locations.
Mhm.
So this weekend was the first time they'd had a home game since that letter had been sent out, and it became very obvious early that there were some extra trooper staff that were patrolling the stadium that were out to just gotcha people. You know, like they're trying to find people that had brought booze into the game, and there's always lots of them. You see
Oh
it
yeah.
all around you, and so of course they're kind of scanning, see if they can see things on the bleachers below or whatever, and that's all fine, I guess. I mean, and at the end of the day, I suppose, like, yeah, that is what the rule is supposed to be, and you can, I guess, you do have the right, I guess, to go enforce that. But here's where I guess I find it weird is like you're targeting some people that obviously are not the problem. Like, I haven't seen anybody that I've sat near have any sort of issue. Like, there hasn't been fights, there hasn't been arguments, there hasn't been any of that. I think a lot of where that was going on was over in the student section, which it is expected. Sometimes it happens, but yeah, go over there and enforce and patrol there. That's fine. Make those things right. And then the irony of it is you've got people that are right behind these folks that are inside of a little glass window, or over in the other section, like two sections over in the end zone, where it's perfectly fine. It's okay that they do that. I just don't get the, like, where are we drawing the lines, and why are you trying to make it something unenjoyable, I guess, for fans, when you know when the issues, I guess, aren't necessarily being addressed. You're just doing something for the sake of saying you did something, and I don't know. I just find that whole dynamic a little bit weird.
I mean, I guess the probably most, I mean, what you're pointing out that always kind of just goes across the board everywhere you are is who's allowed and what's not allowed. Because you go to, you're a certain type of donor, or you give back a little bit, or you have a company that's a big sponsor of these schools or whatever, and it's, no holds barred, whatever, anything goes, whatever you want to do, go ahead, just, make sure you keep it in this little box here. uh, so that's always interesting, even at places that don't sell, on the premises don't sell, they're still allowed to drink. And I mean, even places I go to, it's like, as long as you're, pour it in a red cup or a plastic cup or whatever, then you're fine, as
Hmm.
long as you don't actually have the can. But so then what's the difference here? And
Yeah.
picking your spots is always kind of a dangerous thing. And I guess I'd be I mean, you don't have to go into too much detail, and maybe they didn't say anything, but I'd be kind of curious what the incidents are that they're kind of trying to,
Yeah.
like, is there, is it just like unruliness, is there like fighting, has there been like assault, like, I mean, because obviously that makes a big difference if there's been like some type of, like, serious assaults, a thing of it. But then at that time, it's like, well, how is that happening? How is that even happening now? Like, before this goes out, like,
Hmm.
I know we talked about staffing. Who know? I don't know how they do it there, but I mean, maybe that's your issue there. And I mean, I'm sure you got a campus police unit that has to have some type of authority and some type of presence at the game. So, and
Yeah.
then even just, of course, like, obviously, like, actual, like, local police or sheriffs or however they do it. I don't know what the setup is, but I guess that'd be more a thing. It's like, what are you trying to what's the behavior you're trying to eliminate? Because that would be kind of the first question. It's like, well, is this really a problem, or is it just like one random,
Hmm.
thing that happened to the wrong person, and now it's a big deal,
Yeah.
like somebody's son, or so, some booster's freaking grandson got the piss beat out of him because he was mouthing off, or just got too drunk, and like, I don't, who knows what happened.
Hmm.
That would be more of the thing. It's like, well, and then it's always, no matter what the issue is, it's always drinking or gambling is always the biggest problem. So
Hmm.
just point your finger at that and say they're bad, and then
Yeah.
go home and have your bottle of wine and make your bets on your phone. So,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
that's, you just point at the bad people.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, obviously, like we've talked about some of these things where people are, doing really bad stuff, like throwing shit on the field and whatever. You're trying to avoid those scenarios, and I get that. If that's what does help solve that kind of issue, then maybe it is right to be able to be, like, really hardcore about it. But I just felt like it was more of a, you know, I don't
Like a
know,
PR
picking.
move or something.
Yeah, it was just like
Yeah.
picking out the easy ducklings. Like, oh, I saw that, I'm gonna go be pissed off. And it wasn't that they were like, I don't know. I think it could have been handled, I guess, a little bit more tactfully in my mind. Like it was just kind of like yelling at somebody, like, "Hey, you know, dude." I was like, "All right, I mean, calm down. This isn't
You're
like
in charge. We get it.
we,
Yeah.
we ain't."
Well, no, things with these two is like a lot of people have been going to games for since they're a kid with their families or whatever, and some certain things have always been allowed, or just like no one says anything about it, so you might grow up thinking like, oh, this is normal, that
Yeah.
this is, and the but maybe the rules have changed, or maybe it was never okay and people just didn't say anything, or just it was didn't notice it, or whatever the case may be. So that's part of it too. It's like, I mean, as is not even just in this case, but across all, whatever venues, like, is it set, clear, like what's allowed and what's not allowed? Because I think a lot of times it's not like,
Hmm.
and especially with people, I will say with people drinking, is like you're gonna a lot of times you won't care, and then secondly, you're just gonna get away with whatever you can get away with. So it's if no one doesn't say anything for 10 years and it's
Yeah.
fine, then on the 11th year, they're like, sorry, bro. I was like, bro, I've been doing this for 10 years. You're killing yourself there and
Yeah.
end up getting in more trouble.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic, because when I sit here holding this can that says the officially licensed
Right.
craft beer of Iowa State Cyclones,
But they
and
don't want you to drink it. Yeah. You're just going to buy it. You're supposed to buy it and dump it out and just keep the cans.
I don't know. Interesting. I think there's a lot more to come with that, obviously down the road, since we are seeing these incidents happen on a mass scale with this throwing stuff. So yeah, there's going to be some more to come with that kind of discussion and how we rein things in, or rein fan behavior in, I guess, in general. But just thought that was a kind of an interesting observation. Coming up here this next week, as we look ahead at the next schedule of games, we do have, of course, plenty of intriguing matchups. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not the slate that we kind of thought we had last week, but then maybe that's a good thing because we were just upset about last week. Uh, but there are some good matchups as far as top 25 games are concerned. Number 2 Georgia goes on the road to number 19 Ole Miss. Here's another. I guess I kind of put Ole Miss in that Penn State category. It seems like they always get in this spot, get hyped back up again, and then they get knocked back down to earth in a big game like that. But we'll see. Georgia only a 2.5 point favorite as I'm seeing it right now in that one, an afternoon game. Alabama goes to LSU. Always fun, of course, when those teams get together, and they're both ranked very closely right now. 14th for Alabama, 16th for LSU. Alabama right now a 2.5 point favorite in that game. That's a 6:30 contest in the evening. Little holy war. You got BYU on the road at Utah. It's always fun when those teams get together. BYU right now a 5 point favorite. I guess if any game would be a trap game for BYU, that would be it. Just because you never know what you're going to get in those rivalries. And then also, how does Clemson bounce back? They go at Virginia Tech for an afternoon game, which is always kind of a tough place to play. It would just fall apart for them. So I think that'll be kind of interesting to see. Any others that really caught your eye, SJ?
Well, kind of a lot of these that end up being interesting to me. It seems like when you get like a top 15 to 20 type team against an unranked team, seems like that's where you see a lot of these, I guess, quote unquote upsets. But I mean, just to see Notre Dame as a 26-point favorite over Florida State, I mean that's really wacky. And I'm not saying they won't cover, but that's something maybe to look at. And then, I guess you would have thought one of these teams would be ranked, but neither is at this point. The Oklahoma and Missouri. That's an interesting matchup just because there's a history there.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri is a slight favorite, 2.5, so basically a pick 'em right now. That would be interesting. And then, of course, we always got an eye on Boise. Saturday night game against Nevada. We'll see how that one turns out. But yeah, I think there's some stuff to work with here. Even that mentioned that Friday night game, and then I think that Texas Tech Colorado game could be interesting on the total there. We'll see what that comes out being just points wise. I think that could be another shootout there, like we saw with some of the we usually see with those teams almost on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game to keep an eye on. Unfortunately, obviously, the way that things have shaken out here lately, Colorado's got themselves into the Big 12 top discussion, which I would like that to go away. So see if that happens here this week. But give them credit; they've been winning the games that they've had in front of them. So it'll be that'll be an interesting one to watch. So. Good stuff coming up here this week. Obviously, we'll take a deeper dive look into it and give you our picks later on in the week as well. So we want to make sure that you lock into that YouTube channel, Every Day We're Covering. Follow that to get the like, subscribe, get the notifications so you see those picks that come out later on here this week. We'll get those out to you either late Thursday night or early Friday morning. And then, of course, if you would like, subscribe and share the podcast as well. Available in all the major platforms, including our host here at Spotify. So make sure you're following along with the show. And then, of course, if you want to interact, feel free. Let us know what's going on. Let us know why you're pissed off at the game that you're at. That'd be cool, too. At SJM Bets, at Cherokee CP. Those are the handles there on Twitter. Of course, there's lots of fun stuff going on out there in the internet world when it comes to college football. So if there's anything funny you'd like to share with us, we'd certainly enjoy that also. And any recommendations you may have, beverage wise or picks wise, we'll take them. We would love to do that. SJ, I know you've also got some other weekends coming up here, I think, soon that have some other good fights that might be involved as well. So folks certainly want to lock into the Twitter there, and you'll give them some of those picks also.
Yeah, actually, I mean, even last night there was a not a great card in Edmonton up there in the Great White North, but did decent on that. Had 2 out of 3. Actually, I was pretty confident I was going to hit at least 3 of them, but one of the fights called off due to a medical issue, so didn't end up working out. But yeah, I think we got the old freaking John Jones making his quote unquote retirement fight. We'll see how that plays out. Believe that's on no 16th, November 16th, I believe is the date on that. So a couple weekends away. But yeah, we'll get some fights going. I think there's even a couple good we always have some boxing here and there we like to mix in. So we'll do that as well. But yeah, there's plenty of that. And then even hey man, other than that, I was feeling a little had the itch and threw a little NBA parlay together. So we hit on that pretty nice. So yeah, we just kind of bounce around. I will tell you, man, a lot of that's going to be the totals just because it's almost, think the NFL is hard picking spreads. NBA is damn near impossible.
Yeah, holy crap.
Just we'll give a little tip here. Just there's no nothing's guaranteed ever, but we'll see once we get later on the season. Try to hit that. There's always a line that we look at for total. So like last year, I think I set it about like 215. So as you're over under, so anything over that I was taking, under I wasn't. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing right now. I'm just kind of peeping here and there and looking at some of the totals, and of course. Like I said, nothing's guaranteed. Especially, you want to especially hammer those West Coast teams like a Denver, Minnesota, the Warriors, even the Lakers. That's where you're really looking at for those high numbers. I guess I could throw, maybe even like a Dallas in there, of course. And if you want to mess with some props, Luka Doncic was pretty much fire last year with some of those props. So. Or even Jokic. So we'll get into that later. That we still got a lot of football to get through, but yeah, we'll kind of dabble in everything as the year goes along here. Once we get through football, which we're not in a rush to do that. We still got a lot of games left to cover here.
That's true, and college basketball is also getting underway too. So we'll have a lot to take a look at if we feel like it. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. All right, so that's be sure to lock in, get those picks later this week from us there on the YouTube channel, and hope you have some fun looking at the games here for this upcoming week as well. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.